So, I think, I don't know how many people in the audience actually know RSM.
Sure.
But sometimes I hear you described as the biggest company no one's ever heard of. So perhaps you can give us a little background to RSM and to your role.
I will, and then maybe we can get in a little bit about our partnership, and you can go first and explain it. So, yeah, for those who don't know RSM, agree on the sentiment. We are currently investing a lot in our marketing dollars to make sure people know more about us, especially in consulting. So we are a CPA firm. You think about the big four, and then you think about the Grant Thorntons and the BDOs. We're in the middle. So, we're the fifth largest CPA firm, which means we do what they all do. We do audit and tax and consulting work. And the consulting side is where we're just a bit more complex, like most businesses like us are, where we do a lot of different work around strategy and IT and finance and, other types of either project-based work or, kind of ongoing managed services and all those functions. And what we think separates us from our competition is industry specialization. So about 5, 6, 7 years ago is when we really started to double click into industry specialization. Like, what does that mean? And for us, it was obviously about our services, but it was more about talking to our clients and understanding their business. We'll never understand it as well as them. To be able to have productive conversations about what they're going through, provide perspective about what our other clients are going through, to then ultimately help them through their journey, and of course, create services to help them along the way. So on the consulting side, to reiterate, there are areas where perhaps people may have heard of us and, maybe internal controls and SOX type work, and people might know us as auditors. But again, we've really evolved in expanding beyond just the office of the CFO, and we're really excited to continue that push out in the market to make sure people have heard of us. But thank you.
Very good. And back to how RSM and TraceLink know each other, there was a discussion that started probably 2 years ago.
2.5 is what I was guessing.
I think so
in
too.
Our office. Yeah.
And the area of RSM that I think was of appeal to TraceLink was the amount of work you do with, growing companies in the area of ERP. So NetSuite and Microsoft Dynamics, but I know you work with others as well.
Yeah, for us, it was, you were a client of ours too, so we already had worked together, and we have so many clients where we would just, part of my job in my practice is to talk to our clients about their overall, whether it's business strategy or IT strategy or what have you, and almost every client in the biotech space used TraceLink. So we kept saying internally, why don't we try to figure out a way to partner with TraceLink? Most of our clients use it. There's got to be something here. And so that kind of got us thinking about how does it make sense? And the DSCSA obviously was where we had started thinking about, these are client needs. How do we help TraceLink grow? How do they help us grow to serve our clients? And that evolved. But then as the TraceLink brand evolved is when we started to get even more excited about the partnership, because it's become much more than that. And there's a lot of opportunity for our clients to work with both of us, either separately or together. And over the past year in particular, we've been doing a lot more actual client work together, which is really exciting. And we're still evolving. There's people in the audience here from RSM who have taken it to the next level because they've really learned the products and they've really learned how to talk to our clients about it. And we're really excited about the partnership and to see where it goes.
Very good. So perhaps next we can move across to the types of projects that you're particularly interested in and that RSM is investing in right now.
Yeah.
Health and life science.
Yeah, I'll pick a few. I mean, one of the areas we really help our clients, and the level of which we get into this and when and how deep and also what we talk about depends on where they are in their life cycle and what sector they're in. But a lot of our work, what was that, bug? Sorry, it's freaky, is around IT. And, we as a firm implement, to your point, we implement some ERP systems. We also do a lot of point solutions where we do a lot of work around BI. We build data warehouses for our clients. But a lot of our projects are around helping our clients figure out what to invest in and why, or what technologies have tech debt and why to divest them and why, and just helping our clients figure out what their entire IT infrastructure should look like. And then we help them through implementations of the such. So that's a big part of what we do in life sciences. But stepping away from IT for a minute, a lot of our work in the biotech space is around commercialization. So we do a lot of work supporting our clients who are close to launch, whether it's around putting together readiness plans and roadmaps, whether it's helping them actually execute around the launch. And most of our expertise in that space is in commercial, market access, finance, IT, and operations. And then I would say if you kind of step away from the biotech sector and more talk about perhaps like the medical device, or we call medtech, or CDMOs, a lot of our clients now are coming to us to figure out how they are supposed to rationalize their entire footprint of their business and what makes sense to invest in or divest. So we do so much as a business. I can't go through all of it, but right now those are a lot of the things that we're talking about our clients with and dealing with.
And it seems to me like everyone I talk to these days is talking about AI first up front. Does RSM have a role there too?
Yeah, so we're, we try to go fast. Just like with the tariffs, we're trying to go as fast as we can with understanding AI enough to talk to our clients about it. I mean, I think as a firm, have done a good job of being as out in front of it as we can. So we do have, we're big with deploying certain AI as far as bots and agents, et cetera, like you'd hear in the marketplace. But we also, what we pride ourselves on is not necessarily just focused on what we do for AI, but talking to our clients about what are their ideas for AI and what are they thinking about, and then sharing what one client is doing with another. We don't even care if we can actually help them with it. It's like, well, this is what our clients are investing in with AI. Maybe you should consider that, and just having like discussions with our clients. So again, we pride ourselves on just having bigger picture conversations, but then we do actually deploy different types of tools and technologies, and we're trying to go as fast as we can to keep up with the demand, but admittedly it's hard. There's a lot of questions that we try to get answered as fast as we can.
I imagine with some of the startups, it's as much advising them what they shouldn't be focused on as what they should be focused on.
That's correct. And I just want to go on record. You've literally asked me none of the questions that were on the script.
I have to keep you on your toes.
I knew it. I had a feeling whatever was on the paper wasn't getting, you don't have to ask me them. Yeah, there's definitely a lot about just because something is exciting and everyone's doing it doesn't mean you have to jump right in. So a lot of our conversation is about, well, perhaps it doesn't make sense and here's why. What is the ROI? Does it make sense to even invest in this now? One of the things that we help our clients through is first, in order to deploy something like AI or any application, you got to get buy-in across the business as to why it's important. Why are you doing it? What's in it for me? Without that, you're not going to get the buy-in from the business to actually do it when they're in it. So a lot of our job is helping our clients, figure out how do they get that message across. What is the buy-in? What is the ROI? What is the message internally? And so to your point, sometimes the answer might be now's not the time. But a lot of our clients don't want to hear that because they want to be ahead of everyone else. Now you have your notes.
I do have the notes. I made the notes. So I just wanted to and I was actually leading into one of those questions, which was, in terms of creating an environment for AI or any of the regulatory drivers or something like a Mint, what does a business executive team do to actually enable their organization to adopt technologies effectively and be successful with that adoption?
Yeah, it's a good one. Going back to one of the things I said, it's the initial buy-in. So I think what needs to happen is you got to have communication. You have to have a set of strategy. What we tend to find is set the big picture as to why you're doing something, but you don't necessarily have to do all of it at once. So when I think about what we have found where leadership has succeeded in deploying technologies is start smaller. So set the big picture, start smaller, get a win, showcase that it works, and then move on. Because where we've had, admittedly, our own struggles with our own implementations that we've done is if you're not seeing the value of something for 6, 12, 18 months, the business becomes fatigued. They don't understand why they're doing it. They haven't seen why they've done it yet. So if you can start small, chunk it out, get the buy-in, get people excited, then that way you can start to get the momentum going forward. Again, it goes against a lot of what a consulting firm might traditionally say. Consulting firms want to have the big projects that last forever to make sure that we're adding value through a long period of time. But nowadays, it might make sense to start a little bit smaller, phase it out, get the buy-in, get the results, and then move on.
Obviously, from an ERP standpoint, you're focusing more on NetSuite and the Microsoft products. I mean, that might be one of the arguments why not SAP for one of the the early phase companies. Do you actually see a lot of clients consider SAP just because they're SAP when they're in that stage?
We see clients consider SAP, one, because, so especially in the biotech, we'll just pick on biotech, right? They may have people, a lot of the time we see clients who have people, especially in operations, who came from big pharma and they're used to SAP. That is worth a lot. If you are used to a system and you're comfortable with that, change is hard. But it also may make sense to invest in a tier one system like an Oracle or an SAP, or at least Dynamics FNSC, which someone would consider tier one, is while it's a bigger, more expensive, longer project, the number of applications you'd have to invest in outside of the ERP goes down dramatically. So what is more important to you? Is it having an ERP that's flexible and quicker and smaller and less expensive, but then perhaps you need to add on an MES or a warehouse system? Or would you rather invest in one system where it's more expensive, takes longer to deploy, but when it's done, you're done? Those are the conversations we have with our clients all the time. And sometimes they don't know. And sometimes they only have budget to do so much. So then that dictates their answer. They go for something smaller, quicker, more nimble. And then perhaps in the future, they're regretting that, but it's the choice that they had at the time. They needed to get off QuickBooks or off Epicor or what have you. So it's a very complicated question that every business thinks about it differently, but those are the things, again, we try to help our clients with.
And probably no right answer, right? It depends exactly on the client and their situation.
Yeah, there's no right answer. And but for certain functionality, it probably doesn't always make sense to go with certain systems, right? Like I'll even pick on NetSuite, even though we implement it. If you have really complex manufacturing processes, and it really is, you need to track at a very detailed level. Unless you have plans to invest in an MES system, it probably isn't for you, right? If you're a company who is looking to invest in QAD, for example, QAD will make all your manufacturing and operations people content. It has everything you could ever need, but the finance people generally don't like it. It doesn't give you great dashboards. It doesn't give you, their billing and rev rec is complicated. And so a lot of the time there's no right answer, but you have to work through the pros and the cons, and then it becomes like an internal horse trading as to who's going to give up what in order to get what they want, which is the fun thing to watch.
Yeah, we actually heard of one just this week. We were just talking about a QAD implementation where they have, and it brings us a little bit back towards TraceLink and Mint at the show, is that we heard that they were doing a very small number of transactions with a very small number of vendors. It wasn't the licensing of the product that cost them, it was the amount of service work necessary to actually get everything set up, established, and running. So it's another consideration.
Yeah, and as crazy as it sounds, a lot of our clients don't always, you kind of can bucket an ERP investment into four things. It's probably more, but this is how I think about it. You have the initial implementation, that's a dollar amount. You have the licensing, that's a dollar amount. A lot of people are surprised that if you get an upfront discount over a 36-month term, you're not locked in after that. So you have to create some sort of buffer of your next renewal and what that means if from a 5 to 10 year cost of ownership. You're then gonna have the managed services once you're live, which you need to consider, whether it's using a third party or internally hiring. And then you have the other systems you might need to complement your ERP that are a dollar amount that could be quite sizable. And so it really, you have to think about every potential cost to really make an informed decision if price is something to consider, which it usually is.
And if I will ask you, over the last 5 years, have there been major trends that you've seen in the market in terms of what is an important upfront investment versus something that can wait till later? Are there shifts, even in the last 2 years, on that one?
I would say what we would see if we're going to pick on ERP, until 3 years ago, it was very, very popular for a client to say, we're going to deploy finance first, and then we're going to do manufacturing. It's not always a good idea. So it ends up just being, you have multiple go lives. Yes, it creates a shorter, and this goes against what I said about quick wins, but this doesn't count as a quick win for me. This is like two big projects. You have, of course, a shorter first go live, but then you lose momentum to get to that next go live, and sometimes it just creates more complexity. So nowadays, our clients are actually thinking less and less about phasing those two things in an ERP implementation, and they're just going for it for once. I would say the other tactical thing, again, if just to get specific, our clients used to always think you had to go live on 12/31. That was like, you gotta go live on 12/31. Split, cut off of the year. from an audit perspective, a clean year. But when you talk about going live on 12/31, you talk about your own internal resources and the amount of time you need from them around the holidays, it's a big problem. And so now our clients are figuring out, going live on quarters, during the year. Yeah, it makes it a little bit more complicated at the end of the day from an audit perspective, but no offense to any auditors in the room, the audit shouldn't dictate what you do. So that's a trend that we're seeing now is less, there's a little less rigor around it being a year-end go live. And the only other trend I would say is there is a trend, again, in the world I'm in, which I'm not everywhere, there is a trend on more clients in my world consider investing outside of the ERP than they did 3-4 years ago. So it felt like years ago our clients were trying to jam everything into it, and now they feel like that's not necessarily the move. There are other best-in-class systems that can do things that ERP doesn't do as well. Now that creates challenges. You have more administration of the system. If you're a public company, that creates issues with ongoing internal control dynamics you need to consider. But it's a trend, and our clients have kind of been going to that. So kind of smaller implementations of other systems, and then that gets to the whole point of, well, now you have all these systems and how do you integrate them together, which is obviously a huge part of what you're all thinking about.
So let's talk about that for a second.
Sure.
So the rise of orchestration, I mean, I'm old enough that I don't quite remember the first EDI, but I was pretty sure I was there at the time. Supply chain transaction exchange has been going around a long time. And now we talk about orchestration, the variety of transactions we can do, the number of partners we can exchange information with is growing. How do you see that as a future potential opportunity for us to work on with your clients?
I mean, nowadays there's just more data than there ever was. So the ability to actually do something about it gets harder every month. Our clients have more and more data because they have more and more systems with more and more history. And so that's just a reality. I would also say, I'm going to answer it by talking about just real life. Like with everything going on in the world, just picking on tariffs, we have a whole practice at RSM around trade and tariff advisory where we're trying to help our clients figure out what they should do with their business, whether a tariff decision has impacted them or they're trying to get out of a potential tariff decision. And what tends to paralyze our clients from actually deciding what to do is they don't actually understand what's going on across their ecosystem from a data perspective. So they don't even know where to start. So they know fundamentally they need to move potentially their onshore, their supply chain from somewhere to somewhere. They don't know enough about what it actually looks like today to be able to do anything about it. So our perspective is, perhaps this tariff disruption is short term, hopefully. But the world is evolving in such a way that you have to have better insight day to day. You can't wait months for a consultant to come in and help build these models. You need to know what it looks like to make decisions. So we just see that as a trend, and our clients are hungry to understand it, and before they just couldn't.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I was at a conference just 4 weeks ago, and the conference organizers completely changed the demos they were doing on day one to be what happens if a tariff kicks in, what are my alternate sources of supply, and how do I go about changing them? So it was pretty interesting use of AI as well as being up to date with tariff.
Yeah, I mean, in the life sciences space in particular, I mean, we keep hearing that something's coming in pharma. I don't know, Roche just invested $50 billion to potentially bring everything here, but something will happen. And again, we're just here to help our clients, but the reality is until we know what's going to happen, you can at least figure out how could I be nimble enough so that if time comes that I need to make a change, I actually know what to do. But I think we all need to buckle up because it does seem like something's coming soon and we all need to be ready to figure out what it means. And the crazy part, and we have economists at RSM who talk about this too, conceptually, the craziest part about this whole thing as it relates to pharma is obviously with the IRA and just so many eyeballs on drug pricing reform to then add an additional layer of cost when you're already trying to bring the top line down. It's so complicated, and it's going to be a lot of work for our clients to figure out what to do about it. So very complicated.
Dan, how long do we have?
We have a little bit extra time, 15 minutes if you want to.
Okay, we can keep going. I would like to drill into orchestration. Obviously, we've now started to do projects with clients. And it's a relatively new project, a product for us, but I mean, we see a lot of customers looking at better understanding their supply chains, getting better visibility across their supply chains. Presumably that's something that you think is a worthy investment as well.
We do, and I would just give a couple, so in addition to the projects, just like some things our clients are asking of us today to do for them that then kind of are thematically similar. So, we had a CDMO with a footprint in Texas and California, and they came to us and they said, we believe that we can consolidate all of our manufacturing in California into Texas based on capacity, but we really have no way to know if that's possible because we just don't have good data into our processes, into our systems, into our end-to-end supply chain. Can you all come in and help us figure out if, A, we have the capacity to fold into Texas, and if so, how are we going to do it? We had another client recently come to us asking, it was a med tech company, a device company, grow through acquisition, that has a portfolio of about 15, 16 products. And the CEO's thesis was, we have too many products, our portfolio is too large, we're not focusing on it enough. We think some of these are loss leaders for us and aren't making us any money, but we don't have the data to be able to know how profitable we really are by each of our products. Can you guys come in and help us figure out what are our margins across each of these products to help figure out if we can divest some of these products? And if so, can we close some of our manufacturing footprint? And if so, what does that mean for our business? So those are the things our clients are asking us about. So clearly there's a push to figure out how profitable is our business really, not just at the macro level, but across the portfolio. And our clients are struggling to actually understand that. So if they're coming to us asking them to figure it out, that means there's a problem. And so in our mind, anything in the end-to-end supply chain that helps make it more digital and kind of more real time, we're all for it because our clients are clearly needing to have more insight to make business decisions.
Yeah, really good. And now we're definitely going off the reservation.
Yeah,
that's okay.
What we're here to do.
Further. I think it was a session this morning, people were talking about trading partner readiness, and you've mentioned CDMO, so I'll see that crack in the door and dive right through it. Often I think pharma manufacturers don't believe that their contract manufacturers are prepared to share information or to collaborate on projects that would ostensibly make both their supply chains operate better. Do you have experience and views on that? I definitely do, so I can talk for both of us if you like, but I'd be better off to get your views.
As a firm who equally supports the biopharma, medtech, and services sector, I don't have any strong opinions. I don't want to. I would rather hear your opinion on the matter than my own, because I hear you, but at the same time, we work across the entire ecosystem, and so I don't want to necessarily say anything negative.
I think it goes back for us, TraceLink. It goes back. It was to really where we started off in business, doing serialization and track and trace from regulatory standpoint, where it was. I think back in the beginning, it was the view that manufacturers had to push the contract manufacturers very hard to get them to move because of the inherent cost of putting serial numbers on packaging, et cetera. But I actually think at the higher end, at the bigger end of the CMOs, there was much more willingness to collaborate to create joint value. And I think part of that was almost self-preservation. They felt like they could actually establish a better long-standing relationship as a business partner if they would engage in projects like this. So I actually think a lot of pharma companies probably maybe even haven't reached out to their contract manufacturers because they believe that's the response they're going to get. Whereas I think that certainly among their list of contract manufacturers, they would find some willing to actually engage. And we're actually seeing that as we actually roll out more and more Mint projects. I think we're definitely seeing that too.
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with the concept that perhaps not willing to be honest with each other. I mean, we have a whole group at RSM over the past handful of years who have helped our biotech clients through complex accounting related to clinical trial accruals. This is not the crowd for it, I understand that. But that's a whole nother problem of its own where, our biotech clients struggle to make accruals and estimates for the cost of their trials. And what we found was that our clients just weren't willing to go speak to the CROs to push, to figure out how they could change what they're giving our clients and at what velocity in order to make that process better. So it's definitely a theme in the ecosystem. So to your point, if you all seen that as an opportunity to use data to get everyone to talk better together, we're all for it. Although admittedly, problems like this create opportunities for us to help, but we just have to keep staying ahead of it.
Yeah, and I think maybe the other thing is that now these companies have, by and large, they've connected. All the CMOs are all connected to the pharma manufacturers because of the serialization requirement.
Correct, they had no choice.
Perhaps that actually helps make the decision as well. So,
do you want to ask if people have questions?
Why not? Why not? Let's do that. I can't see anyone because the lights are in my eyes. Dan's going to run. So if anyone has any questions for Joe, not for me.
No, you. It'd be perfect.
We'll go with that.
Any questions in the audience?
All right. Yeah, you can yell. I can hear you.
Do you see your customers pursuing digitalization projects more for cost containment or like market growth or new product launch, or like what are the moments in time, the market drivers, the big changes? I know ERP migrations is a trend, but often we see people looking at these investment opportunities to pursue a particular business objective versus digitalizing and then pursuing objectives after that. What are you guys seeing being drivers?
So I would say over the past 2 years, it's been more about cost. I think and that's where it gets, obviously it's a kind of a struggle internally, depending on who's asking for it, where there's a thesis and a belief that investing more in digitalization will ultimately save, our clients money. But in order to do that, you have to spend the money to do it. And then perhaps there needs to be some sort of correction in your workforce to get the benefit of it. So right now, most of our work around digitalization is around cost saving, but it's also around, I don't know how to say it other than our clients in this sector, in this space, feel that if they're not doing it, everyone else is. And so from a talent perspective, in order to retain the people they have and they like, if they're too behind on the systems they have and the technology they have, they feel like they're going to lose their people because everyone else is going forward with something interesting and new. And so a lot of it, I feel like, is almost like a peer pressure of needing to move forward with the rest of the industry. But again, recently, a lot of this has been, most everything we talk about with our clients right now is around, saving money, but for, regulatory considerations when perhaps commercializing, et cetera. But I don't know what your views are.
Now you're really putting me on the spot. I think we see both, actually. I think it probably depends, and you probably throw the question back to Paul, actually. Might be a better person still, but I think we see both. And I think it comes down to individuals in executive positions. Sometimes you see someone that really is aggressive about wanting to be at the front of something new or has a vision or has done something in a previous role. Whereas others, maybe cost is a more logical and an easier way to justify than going out for some expansive program, especially if it's a smaller organization.
Right. Yeah. And again, to add on to what I said too, I think there's definitely when I think about the business need, again, to go back to my maybe previous comment when I kind of mentioned pricing, right now, no matter what sector I'm talking about in life sciences, there is a need to be able to have dynamic pricing in what you do. And so you can't really make pricing changes and pricing strategies without actually knowing what your cost basis is. And so our clients are losing patience and needing to spend hours and hours and hours building up from the bottoms up what their cost is and what their margins are in order to drive pricing decisions. So to that end, it's more of a revenue-focused decision. So I would say maybe I would kind of not retract what I said, but we are seeing a lot of that as well. So that's a good question.
Okay. Any final questions from the audience? All right, let's give it a round of applause.
Thanks. Thanks, man.